Which mid-torque has more power, and which do you choose? We'll find out in just a moment. I'm Tim Johnson. You're watching Shop Tool Reviews. What we have today is the RYOBI P262 half-inch mid-torque impact wrench going up against the Milwaukee M18 3/8 drive mid-torque impact wrench. Now they both run on their 18-volt battery platforms, the M18 FUEL on this one and the 1+ 18-volt on the RYOBI. Let's compare the specs on these, which they're pretty similar, and then we'll put them on our test rig, then we'll come back and wrap all this up. Both of these impact wrenches we have already reviewed. We've reviewed the 2960 Mid-Torque from Milwaukee. We've also compared it to the Snap-on, so you can find that review as well as those comparisons already on our YouTube channel. We'll also have some links in the description and probably some cards sticking up there now. We've also reviewed the RYOBI P262 Mid-Torque impact wrench as well. Now, the only difference between these, as far as the eye can see, if you will, other than being different brands, is we're using a 3/8 drive on the Milwaukee Mid-Torque just because we don't have the half-inch drive. In the RYOBI, we're using the half-inch drive, and we don't have this in a 3/8. In fact, I'm not sure if it even comes in a 3/8, but anyway. So that's pretty much the major differences. Also, we're using the XC 5.0 battery on the M18 Milwaukee, and we're using this 6 amp hour HP battery on the RYOBI P262. Now, as far as the specs go, what we're looking at is, again, 3/8 anvil on the Milwaukee. We get 4 modes as well as an auto mode. So, in other words, 3 power modes, 1, 2, and 3, and then the auto mode, which max RPMs, max IPMs are going to be the same in the auto mode as in mode 3 as well until the auto mode kicks in and it basically either stops it when it's tightening or stops it when it's loosening. We also get a brushless motor in this. Both these are actually brushless. 600 foot-pounds of nut-busting torque and 550 foot-pounds of tightening torque. Now, as far as RPMs go, you get a variable speed trigger, so these are going to vary based on, of course, how much throttle input you give as well as what mode you're in. Now, in mode 1, we're going to get 0 to 1250 RPMs. And we're going to get 0 to 1950 RPMs in speed 2, and then in speed 3 and auto mode it's going to be 0 to 200 or to 2575 RPM, so almost 2600 RPMs. Now, impacts per minute are 900, 2100, and 3100 depending on which speed you're in, and again, that's going to be variable based on that variable speed trigger. So you see we literally get a variable speed trigger here. I can slow this to a crawl, and depending on how much squeeze I give here, apply the amount of power, amount of speed that I want. We get 3 LEDs right here on the front that surrounds the fastener that should eliminate a lot of that socket shadow, if you will, until you get to a larger socket. But again, it's going to shine very well on that fastener area versus the old style of, shining it up here from either the bottom of the tool or from below the head. So that surrounding light definitely does a better job. On the M18, we get a nice fuel indicator here on the battery so we can easily see the status of our battery. And again, we're using the XC 5.0 5 amp hour, and we've got a fully charged battery. Now, stepping over here to the RYOBI P262, we get, as we mentioned, a half-inch anvil. Also, we get a tri-LED light there as well that's surrounding that fastener and surrounding that socket. This is a little bit bigger tool. We'll measure them in just one moment. We'll also weigh them. Also, I mentioned that this is a 4-mode machine as well. So we get 3 speed modes or 3 power modes as well as an auto mode. Now, as far as speeds on this, we're going to get a brushless motor and a variable speed trigger as well. So depending on what speed we're in, I can not quite get that to crawl, but it's definitely still a variable speed trigger. And so in mode 1, we're going to get 0 to 1200 RPMs. In mode 2, we're going to get 0 to 2000 RPMs. And mode 3, 0 to 2800 RPMs. Now, impacts per minute are going to be 0 to 3200 impacts per minute on max. Now, One thing I just noticed, this is really not a variable speed trigger. If you see, I really can't make this thing crawl. So starts out at a little higher RPM than the Milwaukee, so a little less variable speed. And then it's real touchy as to how much input I get. So that'd be the major difference there, is kind of the starting RPMs. Again, that's about as slow as I can make it, whereas the Milwaukee, I can make that, again, crawl very slow even though I'm in speed mode 3. Now with the RYOBI, you get a 3-year warranty, and the Milwaukee, we get a 5-year warranty. Now let's take a measurement on these tools. First, let's weigh these, and we're gonna weigh them with the battery because that's how we use our tools. So let that zero out a second, and we'll go with the RYOBI with the 6 amp hour battery, looking at 5 pounds, 11.5 ounces. So 5 3/4 pounds for the RYOBI P262 and the battery. The Milwaukee 2960 with the 5 amp hour battery, you're looking at right at 5 pounds. So 3/4 of a pound lighter on the Milwaukee than the RYOBI. Now as far as size goes, get a measurement on these. So as far as height, you're looking at about 10.5 inches on the RYOBI, and the Milwaukee we're looking at right at 10 inches. So about a 1/2 inch shorter on the Milwaukee than on the RYOBI, which a lot of that is due to this battery size. But again, we're using the 6 amp hour here on the RYOBI. They do not offer a 5 amp hour, so that's why we're using the 6 amp hour HP and the 5 amp hour with the Milwaukee, because that's what it comes kitted with. Now when we look at kind of tip to tail, or a length if you will, we're not going to include the anvil because we're using a 1/2 inch here and a 3/8 here. That wouldn't be fair. But as far as the tool itself, you're looking at 6 1/4 inches on the RYOBI and 5 1/4 inches on the Milwaukee. So a full inch shorter on this Milwaukee. In fact, we should be able to, there we go. Yeah, 6 1/4 inches there for sure. And yeah, less than 5 1/4 inches on the Milwaukee. So more than an inch shorter on the Milwaukee. And when we look at the width of the tool, looks like it's going to be quite a bit slimmer on the Milwaukee as well. It's at 2.7 inches, and the RYOBI is going to be right at 3 inches wide. So quite a bit difference on the width as well. Now let's take these over and let's put them head to head on our test bench and see how they do. Now we're not going to mess around here. We know these are both major contenders here. And as far as specs go, they look like they should be about in the same arena. We're going to go ahead and try our tightening torque. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the RYOBI first, and we're going to tighten each one of these 7 fasteners as hard as it'll go. Should be around 450 foot-pounds of tightening force. And so we're going to tighten those for 5 seconds each, and then we're going to come back with our torque wrench, break those free, get a value, write that down, and then we'll come back and we'll use the Milwaukee. Now you will notice, as we mentioned, we've got a 3/8 drive here, a 1/2 inch drive here. They do not make a 33mm socket that we can find that's a 3/8 drive, so we have to use an adapter. Now we have welded this adapter onto this socket to mitigate any power loss in that adapter. People complain all the time when we're showing that, but I'm just coming out and telling that to you. On the RYOBI, this is a 1/2 inch drive anvil, so we're using a 1/2 inch by 33mm socket. So that's the only difference between the two. We'll run the RYOBI first, and again, it's supposed to put out 450 foot-pounds. We'll tighten each one of these, and then we'll come back with our torque wrench and find the value. 6 amp hour battery, fully charged. We're in mode 3, which is the highest mode. Here we go. Since these should be well north of our capability of our 250-pound torque wrench, we're actually going to use this torque multiplier to break these free and then get a reading by dividing that by 6. This is a This is capable of 1,200 foot-pounds with 200 foot-pounds of input. So we divide by 6 to get the value. And here we go. 50.2. Now we'll actually compute these to give a better value of what that tightening force was, because we know it takes less power to remove a fastener as it does to tighten it. So we'll back into that number. All right, so now we're going to check the Milwaukee 2960. We've got a full 5 amp hour battery, and we're in mode 3. That's the highest mode. Tighten, and here we go, 5 seconds each. We use our torque multiplier and torque wrench to remove these. Okay, now we're going to go into testing the loosening power of the RYOBI, and then we'll do the Milwaukee. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take our torque gun here, our digital torque gun, we're going to set it for 250 foot-pounds, and we're going to go 250, 300, 350, 400, 450, 500, and 550 foot-pounds on these smaller fasteners. Now if we break 550, we'll jump into these larger fasteners and start at 600 foot-pounds and move up from there. Okay, so we're starting at 250 foot-pounds, again in mode 3, and still have a full battery. Here we go. So no problem all the way up to 550 foot-pounds. Let's go to the Milwaukee. Okay, now we have the Milwaukee, still have a full 5 amp hour battery, and we're in mode 3, loosen, 250 foot-pounds. So no problem either for the Milwaukee 2960. So let's jump up to the larger fasteners. Okay, so now we have these tightened to 600 foot-pounds, 650, and 700. We still have a full battery, 6 amp hour battery on the RYOBI P262. We'll try it first. In reverse. 600 foot-pounds. Okay, it seemed like it was moving at 10 seconds, so I went ahead and let it finish at 600 foot-pounds. So we're going to jump up to 650. Here we go. So it looks like the RYOBI has gone into like a cutout mode, and you see it's flashing. It's pretty hot here, and so we'll have to let that cool down and try that in again. Okay, so now we have the Milwaukee, and we've got 600 foot-pounds, 650, and 700. Still full battery. Here we go. So definitely was turning within like 5 seconds. So 650 foot-pounds. Doesn't look like it was moving. It looked like it moved it for a second, but I think it's all it's got. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, took a lot longer than 10 seconds, so I cheated on that one. I'm not going to give it 650. We're going to give it 600 foot-pounds, but definitely not 650. It feels like we hammered on that for a good 15-20 seconds for it to break that free. We've retightened this one to 650 foot-pounds, and we've still, well, we got 3 bars left on our 6 amp hour battery, and we'll see if we can break that free. So at 10 seconds, it was not breaking it free. Let's see if we can do it in like 20 seconds like the Milwaukee. Nope. Went into cutout mode again. RYOBI's getting too hot when it won't break that free. So both of these will break 600 foot-pounds. The Milwaukee would do 650 after hitting 15-20 seconds. However, the RYOBI goes into a cutout mode, kind of overheats, and it is pretty hot. This one's a little bit hot as well. We definitely didn't expect for these two to compare that similar, especially in the testing. Now, when you're looking at tightening force, they had right at 56.5 foot-pounds average when we were breaking that free with our torque multiplier, which is a torque reduction when we're loosening. So 56.5 foot-pounds for the Milwaukee, 56.4 for the RYOBI. We're going to call it same. Now, when you multiply times 6, because it was a 6-to-1 reduction, so we multiply times 0.6, well, that's going to give us right at 330-something foot-pounds of force. And then when we divide that by 0.8, because we know it takes less force to loosen something as it does to tighten, we're right at 420-something foot-pounds for both. Again, they're within 1/10 of a pound of the loosening force with the torque reduction. So we're going to call it the same, right at 420-something foot-pounds for tightening force. Now, when it came to loosening, we thought that we would see the Milwaukee kind of pull ahead, but we really saw them neck and neck. Now, it did seem that the Milwaukee could break those free a little easier, but they both accomplished 600 foot-pounds and could not accomplish 650. Now, we did go over the time limit. We allow for 10 seconds, and if the nut's not moving, then we stop. We allowed the Milwaukee to go on for 15 or 20 seconds, and it did break that 650 foot-pounds free. The RYOBI could not do that. In fact, every time it would go into that cutout mode where we think it was overheating or overloading the actual tool, and so it'd go into a cutout every time, and it would not do it. Even though the 6 amp hour battery was just fine, the tool just wouldn't stay hammering on that for too long. And by the way, we've seen that on multiple occasions with the P262. So when you push this really hard, when you get it really hot, it will definitely go into cutout. We have not seen the Milwaukee do that, and we've pushed it just as hard as other tools. So if you're looking for something that you can really push on and on, it may be the Milwaukee that you're after. Now, we also were going to do a third test where we kind of did a speed test of tightening each one of those fasteners, each one of those 7 fasteners at 250 foot-pounds. In fact, we did that over and over, and we couldn't get clean results with either of them, because once we would do one test with one and we would be in the 7-second range and the other one would be in the 8-second range because we missed a nut, and then vice versa on the other one. So I will tell you that both of them would accomplish doing all 7 within like 7.5 seconds. And then, you know, compared against one another, we would miss with the other. So again, in fairness of the testing, we could never get a clean test for both of them, but both of them could easily accomplish that at, say, 1 second apiece. So it was really no hassle for them to break free that 250 foot-pounds. Now, we could have gone back and set it to, say, you know, 500 foot-pounds and then see how fast they would do it. But again, we're not really accomplishing anything because we don't see any tests that really that's used for. Because really these tools should be used for, you know, that couple of 100 foot-pound range of fastening and loosening, and not really pushing it up to that upper limit. If you're in that upper limit, then jump up to a high torque impact wrench where it's just less of a hassle for it to accomplish that work. Now, when we're looking at price on these tools, this is where it gets really interesting, because we know the RYOBI is always cheaper, right? Kinda. This is a $159 bare tool, but that's the only way you can get it is a bare tool, so $159. Well, the Milwaukee's $219 for the bare tool. So you say, well, Tim, that's a $60, you know, savings for the bare tool. Well, that's exactly right. So if you already have RYOBI batteries and you want to buy a bare tool, then great, buy the bare tool. However, if you're looking to get into a kit, you can get the kit with the 2 5-amp-hour batteries and a charger and the tool for $419. The RYOBI, you don't have a chance to buy a kit. So if you're looking at buying 2 6-amp-hour batteries and a charger, that's going to run you about $300. Now, you may find some other deals on smaller batteries like the 3-amp-hours or the 2-amp-hours and so forth, and that's up to you to run it on this tool, and you're going to see less performance. So there's really no comparable comparison when it comes to kit pricing. So again, if you're after a full kit, really the Milwaukee makes more sense. So as far as power goes, did the RYOBI stand up to the Milwaukee? Yes. It's quite a bit larger tool. It's quite a bit heavier tool. It seems that Milwaukee will accomplish that work a little bit easier on the seat of the pants, as well as we didn't see it go into that cutout mode. Also, the Milwaukee, you're going to get a 5-year warranty on it, where the HP is a 3-year. But also, if I'm not mistaken, if you use this professionally, you're only going to get a 1-year warranty, even on the HP tool. So that 3-year warranty is only if you're using it as DIY or a homeowner. Hey, check them out for yourselves. Again, it's the RYOBI P262, the Milwaukee 2960. Both of these are their mid-torque brushless impact wrenches. Keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button? But only if you liked our video. If you didn't like our video, by all means, give us that thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day and keep smiling.